Spending 3 weeks in Greenland, as I did last summer, certainly had a way of reframing aging. And it got me to think more broadly about multi-generational living and learning. Kayaking with a small group in the fjords and the Arctic Ocean along the west coast of Greenland, in and out beside these massive cliffs and these huge icebergs that have calved off of glaciers 100,000 plus years ago, really got me thinking about what it means to be old. And it certainly put in context the brevity of our lives and the opportunity we have to make the most of these lives and to build lives that really matter. We learned in grade school that 90% of an iceberg is beneath the surface. And as I was paddling beside these beautiful forms, I really began to think about what's beneath the surface. And not only beneath this beautiful Arctic Ocean, but also what's beneath us as humans. What's that 90% that we can't see, that we may never know unless we ask? And the opportunity that we have in creating environments where older adults may live and learn and engage to really tap into the wonder of that 90%. And diversity. We know that we want diversity in our communities, that we need and we flourish in diversity in our lives, but also the diversity among and between individuals in their later years. We often miss that. The societal narrative is really one of sameness for older adults. We hear a narrative at a certain age, and pick your age, that after that, you're just old. But as I kayaked beside these incredible sculptural forms, different sizes, different shapes, different colors, I really could translate that into thinking about all the people I know who are in their later years and how different and how much diversity and beauty there is in each person. So what if we bring an explorer's mindset to redesigning the future of senior living? What if we think intentionally about combining the best of two different sectors? One, senior living in a growth mode, serving a burgeoning demographic, and the other, higher education, serving a demographic that has had a decline in birth rate over the last 20 years. There's so much opportunity to take these two sectors and bring out the best in each, not only at the individual level, but also at the business level. We can really dive beneath the surface and create something totally new. Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford University coined the term growth mindset. She really encourages and has seen in her research that by trying new things and building on what works, learning from failure, and adopting curiosity, we can really change not only how we think about what's possible, but even how we feel about ourselves. And to reverse what she also calls a fixed mindset, where we have that whispering voice that maybe we can't do this, or this is too hard for us to try. And often I think in our world of thinking about older adults and the communities that we build for them, too often we stay in that fixed mindset of what's possible. But yet we know that there's so much more that we can draw on. And all of us who work and who engage with older adults, including the older adults themselves, can learn and grow in this mindset. When we go to college, we bring an explorer's mindset. We expect to learn new things. We expect to try things we've never done before and to dabble and to become experts. We just expect that. So imagine if we designed multi-generational living and learning communities for explorers, for people of all ages to engage in the world and take on new things. We can draw on the imagination of those we work with, asking what matters to you. And it really starts with each of us. How do you want to live when you're 75, 85, 95, or over 100? Who do you want to be with? What are you going to stop doing, start doing, return to, dream about, C, there's so many things that we want to do in life, and that will evolve. I mean, over those 3 or 4 decades, I'm sure for you, your wants, needs, and dreams will change. And that's certainly true for our residents and those we are serving in our communities as well. We're in partnership with them because we who are working in the field are also learning and growing and changing. Ultimately, it comes down to who do we want to attract? And it starts thinking about our own interests and our friends and our colleagues and others. So, for example, Frank was the oldest member of our small group on the Greenland kayaking trip. And this was a trip that was not for the faint of heart. At 77, Frank was incredibly calm in the midst of freezing temperatures in the 30s and 40s, whipping winds that actually split our group tent in half. But Frank, in the midst of this, talked about being, not doing. And he brought this incredible calmness from his years of different professions and ultimately spending nearly 4 decades as a professor of philosophy at a college in the Midwest. And Frank knew that bringing this beauty of the natural world at the core of what matters to him was something he could share with all of us. And that really framed a trip that otherwise could have been one that was fairly dramatic. Now, Marjorie lives on a university campus, where the senior living is embedded in the university campus. And Marjorie was drawn to this campus because she loves to learn. She got her doctorate degree in her 50s in neuropsychology, and she has an attitude that if you have a positive attitude, that will impact your whole mind and body throughout your life. She was the first person I knew to sign up for ChatGPT and dabbles in AI with her incredibly witty poetry. And she's always saying to me, if it's not fun, I don't do it. That's her advice, which I love. And then there's Sushi. Sushi moved from the Midwest to the East Coast onto a senior living campus integrated into a university campus. And Sushi was drawn to the young people. As a pediatrician, she loves spending time with older people and especially giving back to them and supporting them. As much as she loved the classes on the university campus, it was the relationships she built, playing ping pong or just sitting and chatting after class. Sushi is a global volunteer. She's built schools in India, but when it comes right down to it, it's those incredible relationships she builds with people and her desire to leave a legacy of giving back. So Sushi and Frank and Marjorie are people who clearly have a lot to gain from being in an environment of growth and wonder and trying new things. But what about businesses? What do businesses have to gain? Well, let's start with 3 really important areas. We all know that in our society and thinking about senior living, employee sourcing, expense management, and integrating wonderfully engaging and educational program is very, very important to those in our communities. So let's imagine for a moment that you as a business are lucky enough to recruit a young woman, let's call her Celeste, to work in your community. College pricing seemed too daunting to her, but she was drawn to your community because you had a relationship with a community college down the street. Now let's imagine after several months, Celeste realizes that working in senior living not only suits her, she wants to seek a career in hospitality. And she goes and applies to the college and suddenly is a college student. And what do you have to gain as her employer? Well, probably 4+ years of her working for you, a residential community that is supporting her throughout that progression in her career, and residents who can mentor her and maybe even sit next to her in a classroom, and other topics that we all think about. We know there are so many people who would love to move into a community and that social and enriching environment, but sometimes the cost is prohibitive. So how do we think about creating partnerships where all people can think about many decades of living in senior living. Well, so let's say, for example, this couple, let's say that she's a nutritionist and he's works in landscaping. What if they were to move into a campus that had a work study program, much like many people have had during college years, where they could work and defray some of the cost of their monthly fees? They could work beside students as well as people of all ages. With their college ID, they could take advantage of the fitness center and classes, the library at the university. And what else is in it for the business besides having an incredibly integrated residential community? Well, you as a senior living community can purchase food services, you could purchase IT services, campus landscaping. There's so many ways to take the infrastructure and the fixed costs of two sectors, higher ed and senior living, and really make the most of them. And we don't have to be in an integrated college campus to really think creatively. A creative idea in Göteborg, Sweden, is one where there was a desire to create those connections between people. And we know that social isolation for older adults is something that we all are concerned about, but also for young adults. And in this community, in this city of Göteborg, Sweden, they set up benches throughout the community, intentionally encouraging older people and younger people and everybody in between to sit down and get to know each other. So you can imagine, for example, this person coming from her assisted living community to this lovely garden, and these two young men skateboarding by on the way to school or to their coffee shop job and sitting down, and over time really becoming close friends. And those kind of ideas, they just tap into our imagination of how we can create environments that are better for everybody. So multi-generational partnerships are good for business. They help us to address expense management, employee sourcing, engagement and educational programming, and can really help us think creatively about adapting our programs to suit people of all demographics and create affordable products for people. And finally, they're really good for human beings, for all people who are engaging in that community. I never expected to be kayaking in Greenland, and I certainly didn't expect to meet Frank, someone who really helped me to understand the importance of pausing, even in the midst of some fairly dramatic weather in one of the most remote places on Earth. This trip made me think about the diversity of people across the spectrum, but especially all that we have to draw from, the gifts that older adults have to give, and their desire to continue to learn and grow and change, and how we can help to foster that, not only in the residents, but also in ourselves and in those who work with us. So ultimately, how are we going to tap what's beneath the surface? We know there's so much more that meets the eye. Thank you.